Things up here and how I do the openings. I'm trying to fix the video issues that we've had the last few weeks. Well, last few times I've been on, should I say, not the last few weeks, where when I played the music and then I came on, my guest or whoever I was on with, whether it be Toby or someone else, their mouth moved with their audio and mine was delayed. In fact, when you would see me come on, my I would be sitting there like I'm looking all different places because I'm waiting for the intro to finish playing. And then I'd start talking. We'd come on camera like this, and it would be like 5 to 10 seconds delayed. So I'm doing one without the intro, trying to see to help troubleshoot it. This is going to be a short little show. I'm doing a special one. I was going to do this last week on Friday after the indictment came down, and I had totally intended to do a show then, but things just got away from me on the weekend, and then the news kept progressing, and then of course things were happening and said and all that stuff. So I kind of waited till the indictment came down, and then President Trump went down to Florida, or went down to Miami from New Jersey, and had all that happen. So I thought I'd wait till I'll do it today. But since it is today, it is Wednesday, June 14th. Happy Flag Day. That's the most important thing. Got my Hodge Twins hat on there with the flag, and it's Flag Day. It is, of course, the U.S. Army's birthday, which is also super important. And it is just happened to be President Trump's, I think, 77th birthday. So a lot of stuff happening today. But yes, definitely happy Flag Day, a very important day, and out of our country, and hence why I had the flag up there first. And then also the Army's birthday, which is also like 200 and I was going to say 48 years. Is that right? I had it up earlier, but just wanted to get that out there first and just talk a little bit about this thing. I don't know what people are seeing or what your opinions are. I've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of days with people about the indictment, and folks that have said, they were big Trump fans, and so on and so forth, or Republicans or conservatives. And they say, it looks very bad. That that the president is being indicted on this stuff. So I just want to highlight a couple things you may or may not know. Number one, a grand jury indictment doesn't really mean too much. When a grand jury convenes, I'm not sure if you knew this, right? There's no defense. There's no other side. You hear one side of the story, right? A prosecuting attorney brings their narrative. They bring their evidence. And there's no cross-examination, there's no refuting it, there's no disputing it, there's no other side. It's just one side conversation where they come in and present to a grand jury and say, here's all the evidence I got. Do you think there's enough there to go forward in trial? That's pretty much it. So yes, it's important. I obviously never want to have anything to do with the grand jury as far as being reviewed by one. Hope I never do anything that requires that, but that is that's kind of what it is. So it doesn't imply, some people may not up to speed on the legal system, may not realize it does not imply that he's guilty. It doesn't mean that their evidence is solid. It just means that a prosecuting or charging attorney has some evidence. It could be true or not true or whatever. And they've said, hey, here's all the evidence. Do you think there's enough? Should we look at this and go to court trial, or is there nothing there? Now, I don't know off the top of my head how many grand juries are denied, like how many are not indicted from people that are brought forward. But I got to think that majority of the cases brought for grand jury are going to have an indictment. If you think about it, right, I kind of put it in this perspective. Nobody puts their references on a resume and puts someone down as a reference who's not going to speak good of them, right? You don't put down the boss that you pissed off and that you did whatever and he hates you as a reference. You're not going to put down the coworker who you ratted out for stealing from the company, and then you left the company later as a reference. You're only going to put people down that speak well of you, right? So a prosecuting attorney is not going to take a case to a grand jury unless they have enough evidence where they know for sure that, for the most part, that they're going to say, yeah, there's enough here to go forward. They're not going to come in half-stepping. not have their stuff together. When they come to present to a grand jury, they got, overwhelming probably amount of evidence or things that they're saying, and the grand jury goes, well, yeah, looks like there's enough here. Why would we not go forward with it? So just kind of want to put that in perspective, number one. And number two, the other half of this, which of course is the big argument, which is why is the President Trump being considered for this and not Hillary Clinton or President Biden or anyone else, right? When they have done, especially Hillary Clinton has done probably even worse things. Obviously, that is eroding away the confidence and the perception of the justice system, the Department of Justice in the American public's eye. I gotta imagine, your diehard Trump haters are gonna, love this, and you're just like your diehard Trump lovers are gonna hate it. But for the average, everyday, common sense American, they're looking at this going, wow, on the same day that all this Burisma stuff comes out, this drops. That looks kind of suspicious. And then they also look at, it's irrefutable, right? Hillary Clinton had a server in a bathroom. She was doing official business on it. When they found it, she wiped it clean with software, beat her Blackberries with a hammer, did all this other kind of stuff, and nothing ever happened. So when the American people that are down the middle or open-minded or common sense minded are looking at this, they're going, how is, it's good for the goose is good for the gander. If no one is above the law, that means nobody. And I think that will play into, or is playing into, not only President Trump's increasing poll numbers for 2024, but also the American people's perception of the Department of Justice and the corruption in our federal government right today. So, we have that going on, and I think some of the polls I've seen, people have been like, they're fine with if President Trump's indicted, but that should be applied equally across anyone of any position or elected position they had or title or whatever else. It should be applied to everyone and not just what appears to be the person representing the party that is leading that party nomination going against the current president. It just speaks volumes. I mean, if either delay this or do something, but it just amazes me that those in the federal government are so jaded or so blind to how this can be perceived that they think this is going to be totally fine and people are going to accept this. It's people aren't dumb, and regardless of what those in DC or New York City or wherever think, or Hollywood, right, or media, but people are not dumb and they see it for what it is. And I think these are people that are not by dumb, I mean they're not ignorant, they're not oblivious to the facts or what they're seeing, and they're also not just believing one news station or network or whatever. I think people are doing research and they're looking at this with common sense. Now, the one thing that gets me is between the Russiagate, collusion, the two attempts at impeachment and everything else, that how the left is not getting that they may be coming across as the boy who cried wolf. It is starting to become very apparent that anytime they can come up with something to go after President Trump and attack him and go after him and get in front of all the cameras and shape the narrative, that they're going to try to accuse him of something, and it keeps getting refuted, right? And then when he says stuff like that he thinks his Trump Tower and his campaign was eavesdropped on, everyone's like, oh my God, how could he say President Obama would do that? What kind of person, president says such a thing about a sitting president, and he's lost his mind. How could he make these baseless accusations? And then we come to find out they were true, right? They were done under FISA courts and a bad dossier paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign, and all that led to that, right? Isn't it ironic that the Hillary Clinton campaign came up with this thing that President Trump had colluded with the Russians to win was colluding with the Russians to win the election and had, yet it was that campaign that had done that exact thing. So, it's people can say, I can't believe, President would do that. I can't believe he would leave, these files laying all over and boxes tumped over and all that kind of stuff. Okay, there's classification jackets on the top of them. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything's in them. It just was a little too easily laid out and sprayed out. When the pictures were released by the FBI, when they're not releasing other stuff. I haven't seen any pictures of the records and files and all the ones they found going back to 1973 that President Biden had. I mean, we saw pictures of boxes in a garage because it was a campaign ad of him backing his Corvette into the garage. That's the only thing we've seen. And even that, we're not 100% sure if that's them, but everyone just speculates that it was them. Why hasn't the FBI released those pictures? Right? They found a lot more, I think, in President Biden's possession from when he was not president, which means he does not have the authority and ability to declassify them. Again, going back to the early 70s when he was a freshman and young senator, they have records from there. They have a lot more there than President Trump had with him, yet there's no pictures coming out and there's nothing being, released there. So I think all this stuff, when you roll it all up, the American people see right through it. And I think, maybe it's his established voting base, maybe it's not, but his poll numbers continue to climb. And I think by the Dems being astonished by that or shocked that he could be indicted, having gone through the stuff he did with Alvin Bragg in New York City and now down there, and he could go through all that and still have numbers climbing, I think now into the 60s, I saw something like that, shows me that how just disconnected the left is. They do not know how to, if lack of a better term, read the room. They do not understand what the American people, the deplorables, the flyover state people, the whatever the left wants to call them, what they really care about and what they're paying attention to. Because if they did, and I've said this a number of times, including on the show, if they did, they would have recognized that after, that the reason that President Obama got in office was because the American public were sick and tired of established politicians, whether they were old white men or not, or whatever. That they were so sick of it, they gave a guy who was a junior senator, who worked as a community organizer, a chance to be president because he was kind of outside of the normal Washington circles. And then they gave him, a second chance because they had the narrative of, it takes more. Everything was blame Bush the first 4 years, and they gave him another 4 years to try to do it. By the time midway the second term came through, most of the people realized this guy was just falling in line with every other politician, and there really was nothing different about him. And that the left and Democrats never recognized that had they not intervened on behalf of Hillary Clinton in 2016, that Bernie Sanders would have been the DNC picked candidate, the Democratic candidate running against Donald Trump. Only because they interceded did Hillary Clinton win. And by the way, that happened twice, right? It happened in 2020. They wanted her. That was their pick. Kind of like the mafia. The big boss picks one person. That's his favorite. That's who's going to go to the top. So that was their pick. And only because of that. And they never took the moment. Like I said, I've talked about this a lot. They never took the moment to recognize that even though Bernie Sanders was an established, member of Senate and all that kind of stuff, he was so outside the norm and his thinking so radical that really most of the people, especially the young voting blocks, saw him as kind of outside the Washington circles. He was an old dude. He was a white dude, white hair. Really wasn't about identity politics and color skins and all that kind of demographic info. It was that he wasn't a politician, right? Even though he looked older than McClain and was white hair and older than Romney and Gore and all the rest of them, he wasn't one of those people that was inside the Beltway wheeling a deal in politics for 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever years, right? They didn't see that. They didn't see that had they not interceded, that for that election in 2016 on the Democratic primaries, it went all the way to the end to DC, which is one of the last areas to vote for that. I think DC and a couple other states are on the last round. I don't remember which one it is. I don't know of any primaries that ever took. They were usually over by round 1 or 2, right? Ohio, New Hampshire, blah, South Carolina, for a couple primaries in, and they were decided. There was enough votes one way or the other, and that's who they picked. But the 2016 Democratic primaries went to the very end, and again they helped cook the books for Hillary. The DNC did not recognize that the American people, the Democratic voting bloc, was also sick and tired of the established Republican or established politicians, that they were willing to give Bernie a shot. This super progressive, honeymooned in Russia, communist, half communist kind of guy. So he looked like he was outside the normal Washington Beltway. So it could have been him against Trump, two of the most outside people. They didn't recognize that. How does the Republican conservative base relate to and bond with a billionaire, a guy who was born into money? Trump has Trump Towers in Chicago and New York and everywhere else. A guy who you would think would be non-relatable to middle-class America, Southern America, and everything else. How did they never recognize that they related to him? Not because they also knows what it's like to be a millionaire, be born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and have your own private jet. Nobody can relate to that. It was just that he was from outside politics. He was outside. I mean, look, he was the first one, President Trump, since George Washington, to be elected president without being a career politician. Now, some would say Eisenhower, because he was a general, but when you get up to the general officer ranks, you start to become some politician. So I'll give you that, even if you say Eisenhower, because he was a general and he got up there. But some would say him, but in reality, he was up at the political levels when you get above 1 star. But truly outside of government, no government service at all, right? President Trump was the first one since George Washington, which, by the way, because George Washington was the first president, he didn't have a life of politics and all that stuff. So, he was a general too, but a little different back then than it was in nowadays in the 40s and 50s. So, here was a guy that got his way up there and made to become president. Someone that really 99.9% of America cannot relate to, and how his upbringing was, and what entitlements were and luxuries were provisioned to him, and he had by then his name and his family and all that stuff and everything like that. A big real estate developer in New York City. Nobody relates to that, but he was just outside of DC. So he wins. Again, we're talking about the Democratic Party being ignorant and not paying attention. And so gets back in it, and everything happens, and then they throw everything at him they can for 4 years. He fights them off. He fought off the established Republicans. He fought off, the media, and was still winning people over. Now, how 2020 shook out, number of votes, spikes of numbers at 2 a.m, and countings and ballots and stuffing of ballots and mailboxes and all that stuff. That's for a whole other show. Or whole other topic. I know we've talked about it here before, but the reality is, is they throw a guy up that broke all the molds in the Democratic primaries of 2020 because he only won 1 state, South Carolina. He didn't win New Hampshire. He didn't win Ohio. He didn't win Iowa. He didn't win any of those states. He won South Carolina, pretty much attributed to Clyburn supporting him. And kind of like Hillary in 2016, he was the golden child picked by the Democratic Party, and that's who they put their support behind. Not Bernie again, him. So he gets his way up there. A guy that tried to run 3 times before, a guy who's been has documented plagiarism while in Congress, has made a career of 47 years of being a politician. No real job outside of college. Never had a real job. No real world experience. Again, tried to run 3 times. They didn't want him. And now he's up there against President Trump rerunning. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, he pulls ahead and wins and gets more votes than even President Obama did, who was a darling and a favorite by Democrats and independents and a lot of other people that just wanted someone different. Somehow gets more votes than him. And they think, okay, that we knew, I think the DNC knew, like, see, we knew it. They really liked us and all that stuff. They were still ignorant of the fact that had they not probably interceded again or whatever happened in the 2020 election, because I do not believe it was a 100% valid election. I've said it then, I've said it now. It's that the numbers don't add up. I don't believe the election was on the up and up. President Trump would have run again, right? Even with impeachments and this and that stuff, he would have won again. And now here he is, took 4 years off. He's back at it. He's got indictments, everything else. He is a lightning rod of controversy. Yet he's running a 62 or 63% poll number. Why? Because even though he is unlike 99.99% of Americans in his upbringing and lifestyle, he is more like them when it comes to just being an American and not being a politician. Now, you could say, well, he's a politician now. He did 4 years of it. You could. He did do that. But I think most would agree that he was a very unorthodox politician and a very unorthodox president that did things a lot different than many other people, right? He would, rather than kick the can down the road and delay to someone else or whatever, he fired people in a second. They didn't produce, he'd fire them. I mean, he did a lot of things outside the norm. He came in and led his own way, was unpredictable, which probably kept us very safe because no one knew how he'd act. So, is he a politician now? Yes, by virtue of just he had the job for 4 years. But he's not a career politician. He does it by his own drum. And I think the American people, despite everything that whatever you believe or who was to blame and how January 6th came about or this and that, whatever, I think the American people look at all the things that the Democratic Party's thrown at them and they see a party that cries wolf. Because you had Adam Schiff saying he saw irrefutable evidence. You had all these investigations. You had all these millions of dollars. And everything they've accused him of has not been true. And in fact, if anything, some of it's been true on the Democrat side. So I think when they see these, Alvin Bragg attempting to indict and charge the president for a crime at the state level for something that's a federal crime, but he's trying to do it and say the state's trying to enforce or prosecute him for a federal offense, or you see what's happening, with these records where, by the way, President Trump, out of the three, Biden, Trump, and Hillary Clinton, was the only one that had the authority to declassify. Excuse me, I just sneezed. I didn't want to blow your ear out. Was the only one that had the ability to declassify anything. Hillary Clinton had all kind of classified stuff and did not have the ability to declassify it. And Joe Biden definitely didn't, as either a senator or a vice president. So now they have President Trump, who took records with him, which every president has done. And there's been a lot of precedent set for that. And has them take them with him, which, like I say, a lot of them, if not all of them, have done. But also was the only one of the three people I mentioned, not counting that Clinton took records with him and Bush 1 and 2 and Obama and all the rest of them, but just the three I mentioned. He's the only one that has the ability to even declassify that. Now, the process of declassification, what does it take? Who signs off on it? Whatever. There's some of that is very vague. It's never really been established. It's kind of just been accepted as you could do it, from what I understand. But I don't think these are going to go far. And if this indictment falls flat on its face and doesn't go anywhere because the judge looks at the Constitution and looks at the laws and looks at the laws in the books and the precedents set in earlier cases, then it is just going to bolster. I think it's just going to get the complete opposite effect of what the Democratic Party wanted, which was to keep him from running in 24 and demeanor his image to the American people. Because if anything, right now they are bolstering it. I think we could all agree that President Trump is he was kind of, like I said, he was unpredictable and kind of went to the beat of his own drum, and did his own thing. When he was in office the first time, he gets back in office again after all this stuff they've been through. Um, and I think he is going to be forced to be reckoned with, because if you don't think he gave a crap the first time, that's at a whole new level. He comes back in office where he can only do one more term. He really is not. I really think um, he will go scorched earth on a lot of people, both in Republicans, Democrats, and everything in between. I think he is, and I think a lot of his established base is going to love it, and I think they are going to eat that up. So the Democrats, I'm telling you right now, you think you're doing your best to keep him from running. Between these indictments and everything else you've done, everything you've accused him with, which is all fallen untrue, and every one of it's been disproven, you were doing nothing but feeding the beast. I guess you thought you would feed the beast till he got so fat that he would just blow up. You're feeding the beast and making him stronger. And, short of anything to be able to stop him, if his numbers keep going the way they're going, there's not any other candidate in the field right now trying to run on the Republican ticket that can come close. You can take all their numbers together in polls, and I think if you took them all, they don't even equal half of what President Trump's numbers are right now. Now, polls are polls, and people change their minds. But right now, at this point in time, in June of 2023, which is what, August, September, October, about 17 months out from the election, you are not. It is not looking good for anybody to carry the Republican ticket except for President Trump, and who he puts with him, who he gets to align with him as his running mate. If he's the party, if he's one that takes it, I'm sure will be strategic and be one that will carry him through. Now, did he pick Pence because he was established Republican and had a lot of favors and had a good reputation and had strong Christian evangelical backings? Probably. I don't know. I think he's already established. I think President Trump's already established his own backing, and will pick someone that will just help close it out and make it a over the top win. So they can keep bringing charges, whether in Georgia, Florida, New York City, wherever. They keep trying to push this narrative, but as we're seeing from, when you come out and start accusing someone of something, the whole concept of, those that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. That's exactly what this whole thing's about. When you've got two established Democratic leaders in the name of Clinton and Biden that have been, found to have done the same thing, not only found, but, proven to have done the same thing, you really should not be trying to go after and throw those stones at someone else. It is going to come back and bite you. And when you do that, you should not be surprised if you have your eyes open and you're aware of your surroundings. You should not be surprised of what is going to happen when the American people are going to say, wow, he may say things wrong, he may cuss, he may do this, but you are so corrupt and you are so part of the establishment, I'm going to vote for this guy just because to spite you, or, it's not going to vote at all. And, a Democrat or someone that was going to vote Democrat or for any party that decides to abstain and not vote is just as bad as voting for the other side. So if they stay home because they can't bring themselves to pull the lever for Biden, if he ends up becoming the nominee, and Harris, which I think she's going to be the anchor that sinks him too. If they can't bring themselves to do that, but that, really don't like Trump and this and that, whatever, they'll just stay home. And those Trump votes have a 60-something% following. It's going to be there. The only way the Democratic Party pulls out any possible chance to do something in 24 is Biden dumps and runs. He does not run. He changes his mind, and they get someone in there that can hold toe to toe and have the popularity, whatever it may be. It won't be Harris, that's for sure. And And maybe it's Kennedy Jr. Right now he's looking like the strong, and Marion Jameson's not even an option. But it's going to have to be someone to win over 81 million people or more. I guess that's what Biden won last time, because I guarantee you Trump's folks are probably going to come out just as strong, if not stronger. So Democrats better bring their A game. I don't think it's Newsom, because he's just a West Coast dude, and people see what he's done in the state of California, and we see what happened in San Francisco where he was the mayor and all that stuff. I don't think it's anyone else that the Democrats put up last time. None of them could hold the candle to them. I don't think no one has an appetite for Hillary coming back. So I don't know what the Dems are going to do. It'll be interesting to watch over the next, not even 17 months, probably the next 6 months. But whoever they throw up there, it better be quick. They better do it by a year out, because if they go much past less than a year, they're going to have a hard time drumming up the support and getting what they need to get their machine in place. So I've been going about 30 minutes. I didn't think I was going to go this long. I didn't know I had this much to talk about. But it's been a while, and I apologize for that. So I've been meaning to get back here. Life has just been busy. And so I wanted to do this quick show, talk about the indictment, talk about some politics stuff, and, of course, wish the Army a happy birthday, and wish the flag a happy birthday, because it's Flag Day. It is the Army's birthday. And I hope you all enjoyed this show, and I will see you all next time here on Stu and the Nunn. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.